Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Radha Jai. Jai CC Nitai Gauranga Ki Jai. Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Jai Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Gauri Premanandi Hari Bo. Srimad Bhagavatam.
Normally we have this, we read first from the Transcendental Diary. If you like, you can do this also as you like.
We read from here first, okay?
Yeah, like just some paragraph.
Right where this green is, yeah?
Yes.
Okay. So we're reading from the Transcendental Diary in Sri Vrindavan Dham. So in the mail today, there was a letter from Vayasaki Prabhu. Although he is now living outside the temple with a woman who is not his wife, he still feels that he should be allowed to remain as a Washington, D.C. temple president, and he appealed to Prabhupada to retain his service. Srila Prabhupada declined to get involved in the details. He has already given his opinion to the GBC, Rupanuga Prabhu, and he referred Vayasaki back to his zonal managers. Quote, "This matter must be decided by the GBC. Let them consult together and decide. Whatever they decide is approved by me." A package from Gaur Govinda Maharaj also arrived today, containing a letter and some new Oriya language publications. This letter was written in Calcutta prior to the one that Prabhupada had already received and replied on the 9th. So we can see that Prabhupada and Gaur Govinda Swami are writing back and forth frequently. This letter detailed Gaur Govinda's frustrations in his dealings with Mr. Vijayananda Kanungo. Since Prabhupada has already informed him what to do, he simply reiterated his instruction, quote, "I have already informed you that I received only one document, which I have received from Gargamuni Swami. I received no sale deed. You may take one certified copy and use that." So this is when Gaur Govinda Maharaj had returned to Bhubaneswar and was purchasing some land to build a temple. That Prabhupada had requested that he build a temple and install Sri Sri Krishna Balaram Mandir, deities in that mandir. So from this letter we see that Gaur Govinda is frustrated in his dealings with the seller. Buying and selling. It's never a smooth transaction in India. Prabhupada was glad to see the books that Gaur Govinda Maharaj sent. One is the Oriyan Bhagavad Darshan, reprinted for the 3rd time, 10,000 copies, and the other is a new printing of Maharaj's translation of Krishna Consciousness, the Topmost Yoga System. A quote from Srila Prabhupada, "I cannot read the Oriyan books, but I thank you very much. Please go on increasing. You can ask for paper from Gopal Krishna. Ask him where he is printing, what his cost is, and the size of the paper, etc." So printing of the books was very important. So the Oriyan script, Oriyan language is not so different than Bengali, but the script is entirely different, completely, 100% different. So Prabhupada couldn't read that script. But if he had heard the language, he would have understood because it's quite similar. So anyway, Gauragovinda Maharaj is printing Bhagavad Darshans, which is the Indian Back to Godhead magazine, and he has translated Prabhupada's little book, Krishna Consciousness, the Topmost Yoga System, into the Oriyan language. It's interesting to note that this was the third printing of the Bhagavad Darshan magazine in Oriyan language, which means that he's distributing a lot of magazines. A lot of them are going out all over Bhubaneswar, Jagannath Puri, Cuttack, and all those different important towns in Orissa. So, Jai. So that was Prabhupada's exchange in my where was he? In Vrindavan, receiving the mail. Thank you very much, Sri Prabhupada Ki Jai. Hare Krishna. Any questions about this Prabhupada Leela? No? Okay. Srimad Bhagavatam. Which shloka is it?
It's 5919.
5919, okay.
Chapter 9, verse 19.
Nine 19. So it's chapter 9, shloka number 19. Is there a light here? Could you turn this light on? Very difficult to see. It's very interesting. Shloka 18 is a huge shloka, and shloka 19 is a tiny shloka. So we got the small one. It's easier to chant. Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Together, please. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Narayanam Namaskritya.
Narayanam Namaskritya.
Naram Chaiva Narottamam.
Naram Jaiva Narottamam.
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam.
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam.
Tato Jayo Mutirayet.
Tato Jayam Mudire.
Nashtaprayeshva Bhadreshu.
Nashtaprayesha Bhadreshu.
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya.
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya.
Bhagavad Utama Shloke.
Bhagavad Utama Shloke.
Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki.
Bhakti Bhavati Naistiki.
Om Agyanat Mirandasya.
Om Agyanat Mirandasya.
Gyananjana Shalakaya.
Gyananjana Shalakaya.
Chakshur Unmilitam Yena.
Chakshur Unmilitam Yena.
Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha.
Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha.
Mukham Karoti Vachalam.
Mukham Karoti Vachalam.
Panghum Langhayate Girim.
Pangum Namhayate Girim.
Yat Kripa Tamaham Bande.
Yat Kripatamaham Bande.
Sri Gurun Dinatarinam.
Shri Guru Dinatarinam.
Vanchakalpatarubhyascha.
Vanchakalpatarubhyascha.
Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha.
Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha.
Gitanang Pavanebhyo.
Patitanam Pavanebhyo.
Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.
Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.
Sri Krishna Chaitanya.
Shri Krishna Chaitanya.
Prabhu Nityananda.
Prabhu Nityananda.
Sri Advaita Gadadhara.
Advaita Gadadhara.
Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Vayasaki Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Hare Krishna Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna
Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. So we are continuing our study of the Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th canto, chapter 9, shloka number 19. And this chapter deals with the supreme character of Jada Bharat. Evam eva kalu mahat abhichara atikrama kartsnyena atmane halati evam eva kalu mahat abhichara Kartsnayatmani Falati. I don't know the meter for this particular one.
I think this is in prose, Prabhu.
Sorry?
This is not in the meter, this is prose.
They all have meter. There are many, many meters in Sanskrit. We only know 2 or 3, but there's dozens of them. So we don't know this meter. But anyway, Mam eva kalu mahad abhicharati krama Karishyenatmane palati evam eva. In this way, kalu, indeed, mahat, 2 great personalities, abhichara, in the form of envy, atikrama, the limit of offense, kartsnyena, always, atmane, unto oneself, palati, gives the result. Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. When an envious person commits an offense before a great personality, he is always punished in the way mentioned above. So in the way mentioned above is the previous shloka. So in which way are the envious persons who commit offenses punished? Let's read it. Intolerant of the offenses committed, the infuriated goddess Kali flashed her eyes and displayed her fierce curved teeth. Her reddish eyes glowed, and she displayed her fearsome features. She assumed a frightening body as if she were prepared to destroy the entire creation. Leaping violently from the altar, she immediately decapitated all the rogues and thieves with the very sword with which they had intended to kill Jada Bharat. She then began to drink the hot blood that flowed from the necks of the beheaded rogues and thieves, as if this blood were liquor. Indeed, she drank this intoxicant with her associates, who were witches and female demons. Becoming intoxicated with this blood, they all began to sing very loudly and dance, as though prepared to annihilate the entire universe. At the same time, they began to play with the heads of the rogues and thieves, tossing them about as if they were balls. So this shloka says that when an envious person commits an offense before a great personality, he's always punished in the way mentioned above by Kali. Kali is an expansion of Durga. Durga is an expansion of Radharani. So we go from Radharani, Shuddha Sattva, and we come through the expansions that go through the different modes. So Kali is an expansion in the mode of Tamagun. She deals with persons in the Tamagun mentality, and she associates with persons in the Tamagun mentality, although she herself is not in Tamagun. The example is given of Lord Shiva. He also is in charge of the Tamagun energies, and his followers are all Buddhas, ghosts, and goblins, but he is not influenced by that. So Kali also is a female representation. But when she wants to punish someone, she really gets serious about that punishment. So we have to be careful. Because the shloka says when an envious person commits an offense, non-envious people don't commit offenses. If one commits an offense, it means that he's in the envious category. There's two types of persons that exist in the material creation. Doesn't matter what type of body they're in, whether it's animal or bird or aquatic or human. There's two categories. Category 1, those living entities in those bodies that are envious. Category 2, those living entities in those bodies who are not envious. So Bhakti Yoga means that we're going to bring you out of the envious category into the non-envious category. It's a process. It doesn't happen overnight. So as the envy goes down, then the compassion goes up. And the envious people, they will find the fault and they will share that fault with everyone. They will broadcast it everywhere. That's the envious people. It's a great offense. But the devotees who are non-envious, they will overlook the fault and they will try to see something good in that person. And this is because they're imbued with love, with devotion. The more love and the more devotion you have in your heart, the more good you see in other people. And when the love is tiny, almost insignificant, then you only see the faults. And you broadcast those faults. And you're happy to put people down. But the devotees whose hearts are filled with love and devotion, they want to elevate people, lift people up, bring them closer and closer to the lotus feet of the Lord. I can give a material example in this case. You know that President John F. Kennedy was assassinated by Lee Harvey Oswald in America in 1963. But when his mother was interviewed, you're the mother of the killer of our president. Because she had so much love for him, she said, he was a good boy. She just remembered him as a good boy because she had love in her heart. Although it's a material example, it shows you that when you have love, you just focus on the good. And when you don't have love, you just focus on the bad, on the negative. So a heart devoid of love is a heart that's in negative consciousness. You only see negative things. You speak negative things. And you understand everything negative. So these are the envious people. The word for envy in the Sanskrit language is himsa. The word for violence in Sanskrit is also himsa. It's the same word. And ahimsa means non-violent or non-envious. Why is it the same word? Because in the Sanskrit language, there's a much deeper understanding that envy is mental violence or verbal violence, which results in physical violence. It's all violence, whether you're thinking negative about a person, you're speaking negative about a person, or you're actually physically harming another person. It's all violence. Himsa, the same word, due to envy. Because when you're free from envy, then you're the well-wisher of every living entity. Prabhupada was the well-wisher of every living entity. There was no envy in his heart. He was the well-wisher of every living entity. And so when we come from the category of the envious to the non-envious, through the process of Bhakti Yoga, we're purifying our hearts. Through the process of chanting the Maha Mantra, which is the purificatory mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So in this shloka, it speaks about a particular instance, not just a general when envious people commit an offense, but the particular act when you commit an envious people commit an offense before a great personality. So like I may commit an offense to someone on the street and I get a reaction for that, but if I commit the same offense to Srila Prabhupada, I get a much heavier reaction. So here in this case, because these envious persons wanted to harm Jarabharat, then Kali manifested, because he was such an exalted personality that the reaction was the most powerful reaction. And Kali came and slayed them all, decapitated them, cut off their heads. So we have to be careful with offenses, because chanting of the holy names purifies the heart. But there's 10 offenses that we have to be very careful about in the matter of chanting the holy names of the Lord in order to get the desired result. Now, in any endeavor, if you do it correctly, you get the result. If you do it incorrectly, you don't get the result. Is that logical?
Yes.
Is that fair? Yeah. It's the same with chanting the holy name. There's 10 offenses. If you commit those offenses, you won't get the result. So there may be 2 people chanting in a particular temple. One person's chanting with no offenses, the other person's chanting with full offenses. Well, the one with no offense is going to make rapid advancement, and the other one's not going to make rapid advancement. Even he may have joined earlier, more senior, to the second person, but the second person's making rapid advancement and passing him, the first person, because he's chanting without offenses. So we have to be very, very careful in our devotional practice not to commit any offenses, and we should know what these 10 offenses are. Because when you know what they are, then you can guard against it so that you don't commit it. So of all those 10 offenses, 3 are the most egregious. Or as Prabhupada would say, the greatest offense. So the greatest offense is, number 3 is the 7th offense, to commit sinful activities on the strength of chanting the holy name of the Lord. Well, I fell down, I did something really bad, but I'm chanting Hare Krishna, so, it's counteracted. That's a great offense. And it's also ignorance, because it's not counteracted. The chanting of the mantra creates purity and it brings spiritual benefit, but it doesn't counteract and invalidate negative material things. The negative material is kept in account by Yamaraj, and the positive spiritual is kept. It's not that one cancels out the other. So you may be chanting Hare Krishna, but if you commit an offense, that offense is there, and it stays there. Don't think that it cancels it out. So, and when the Yamadutas come at the time of death, because you've got these offenses, they're not thinking, oh, he chanted Hare Krishna. They're sent there because of your offenses. Nothing is canceled out. So we have to be very careful about that. Then the second most egregious offense when chanting the holy name is to find fault with other devotees. That's called sadhuninda. Finding fault, criticizing, or blaspheming the devotees who have dedicated their lives to propagating the holy name of the Lord. So all of us have dedicated our lives to propagating the holy name of the Lord, the Sankirtan mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And if we find fault with someone, we criticize someone in our mind, that's an offense. If we broadcast that and share it with other people, oh, such and such did this and that, that's a greater offense. And then if you act against that person, throw him out of the temple or something, I don't know, whatever, it's a huge offense, a massive offense, which can destroy your devotional creeper. It's called the mad elephant offense, the pagalhati aparad. This is what is in this verse. Committing an offense against a great personality is the pagalhati aparad, the mad elephant offense. And it's compared to an elephant who's completely enraged, full of anger. And he comes into a garden and he's destroying everything, trampling over all the plants and creepers and trees and destroying everything. So we have to be careful that we don't commit this pagalhati aparad, this great offense against Vaishnavas that have dedicated their lives to propagating the holy names of the Lord. So that's the second most egregious offense. But the number one most egregious offense is the one that everyone commits. And that is the 10th offense. So we go from the 7th offense to the 1st to the 10th. And the 10th offense is to be inattentive while chanting and to maintain material attachments even after hearing so many instructions on the matter. Why is this the most egregious offense? Because the holy name is non-different than Krishna. Prabhupada has explained that the holy names is the sound incarnation of Krishna. The sound, you can say the sound avatar, the sound avatar of Krishna. He's there. We can't see him, but we hear. His holy name is non-different than the Supreme Lord. And if we're inattentive while chanting the holy name, and what does it mean to be inattentive? Let's analyze this. Let's say I'm chanting my japa, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare. And then my mind starts wandering. It starts time traveling. It travels to my past, travels to my future, or my present, and I start thinking about me, my Leela. When you chant Hare Krishna mantra, you should automatically come to your mind Krishna Leela. But we're conditioned souls, so what comes into my mind? My Leela, not Krishna Leela. So when I'm thinking Krishna, my Leela, and not Krishna Leela, that is a great offense. Because Krishna is there. You're chanting his name, so he's there. So right in Krishna's face, you're ignoring him and thinking of your Leela. It's a great offense. I can give you an example to make this very clear. Suppose your Guru Maharaj comes to the temple and everyone's excited, Jai Guru Maharaj, Gurudev, Hari Bol. Everybody's so excited. And then someone comes up to you and says, Prabhu, Guru Maharaj requested to see you in his room. Really? Me? Yeah, he said your name. Wow. So you go to his room, you sit down, and Guru Maharaj wants to talk to you and wants to impart some knowledge to you. But your mind starts wandering. And instead of hearing what he's saying, you become inattentive and your mind is thinking your Leela. And then when you leave, everyone comes to you, wow, you were just with Guru Maharaj, what did he say? You can't remember because you didn't hear. Your mind was wandering. You can't remember. It's a great offense. So when you don't hear, you can't remember. When you can't hear, you can't remember. So the point is this, that when you're chanting the holy names of the Lord, chanting japa, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Sometimes it happens, you come to the end of the round, and you can't quite remember how you got to the end of the round. You don't remember. Anybody ever had that experience? Why can't you remember?
Because you don't hear.
Because you didn't hear. What does remember mean? Remember means you hear something, goes into your consciousness, and then later on, you can pull it back out. If you don't hear, it doesn't go into your consciousness, so there's nothing to pull back out, so you can't remember. So this is the 10th offense, is the greatest offense in chanting, because you're offending the Supreme Personality of Godhead. What to speak of offending the spiritual master, now you're offending Krishna. In the beginning, when we're new, we're like infants in devotional service. So Krishna understands, okay, he's going to have difficulty with his mind. So Krishna overlooks that. Just like when parents have a little toddler, 2 or 3 years old, and he knocks over something in glass and breaks it. You know, the parent doesn't get too upset because, you know, he's a child. Please be careful, you know. But if an adult comes and pushes that glass over, you can really get angry. What's the matter with you? Well, why aren't you more careful? What if it's a vase full of flowers and it falls and crashes? Because you expect more from someone who's mature, from someone who's grown up. So when we grow up in devotional service, become more mature, then we have to become more attentive to the chanting. If after chanting for 50 years, I'm still inattentive while chanting, it means I'm still at square one. I haven't made any advancement in controlling my mind. I haven't made any advancement in hearing the holy name. And therefore the holy name never went into my heart and purified it because I didn't hear. So there's a little test you can do to help you in your hearing. And that is, when you're going to start your japa, you record your japa. And then later on during the day, you listen to what you recorded. And you hear how you chanted. What you're going to hear is how Krishna hears you chanting. Are you chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, with each name enunciated clearly? Or is it just, you know, some mess and you're missing different words, you know? So I did that, and I was really surprised because my chanting was this Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Because I wasn't hearing, so I stopped it. You know, I started to chant slower, just so that I could enunciate the words clearly. Because I read in the Shastra that if you chant the holy names of the Lord just once without offense, you can get Krishna Prema. Has anybody heard that or read that? So let's just do that at least once. Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, with no thought in the mind of my Leela, and full of a heart full of devotion, and offering it as a gift to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Here is my mantra, offenseless mantra, full of devotion that I offer to you as a way of saying thank you for everything you've done for me. And what is it that Krishna has done for us? Everything. He's given us our life. He's given every breath that we breathe that keeps us alive. He gives us the water that we drink to quench our thirst and shower to become clean. He gives us prasadam to stay healthy, our clothes to keep us warm when it's cold out, the shelter during snow or excessive heat or excessive rain. So everything Krishna has given to us, and we never say thank you. For example, if I give you a glass of water, what will you say? Thank you. But I had a shower this morning. We all had shower this morning. How many people said thank you for this water to Krishna? So we have to teach ourselves, Jai Sisi Gornitai, we have to teach ourselves to become conscious, to become aware that we're dealing with Krishna. And this is what I said yesterday, what Prabhupada taught me. I heard him say it. It's right there. First become conscious, then you can become Krishna conscious. Don't be Krishna unconscious. Don't be Krishna unconscious. First become conscious, then you can become Krishna conscious. So what we want to become fully conscious so that we do not commit offenses to anybody. That's our one most important activity in devotional service, is to become so conscious, I'm fully aware of everything I do and I don't commit offense to anyone. Then I make rapid advancement. Rapid. Dhruva Maharaj in 6 months became completely purified, chanting his mantra, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. He made such rapid advancement. Dhruva Maharaj left the kingdom because he felt offended by his father and his stepmother. And he wanted revenge. He was going to request the Lord to give me the power that I can take over the kingdom. I'll show them. That was his mood. Not a very devotional mood. But Narada Muni came to him and initiated him and said, you chant this mantra, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And he chanted that mantra. He went to the forest and he just chanted that mantra with full concentration. And in 6 months, he became so purified that the Supreme Lord came and gave him darshan. And the Supreme Lord said, you have pleased me greatly. I will give you any benediction you require. What do you desire? What is your wish? And Dhruva Maharaj said, now that I've had your darshan and I've seen you, anything else that I ever wanted has no more value to me than broken pieces of glass. That's how valuable is the darshan of the Lord. He got it in 6 months. Now I've been doing it in 50 years, but I've not yet reached the level of Dhruva Maharaj. So I have to think to myself, what am I doing wrong? Why have I not reached that level that Prabhupada had reached, and all the other acharyas reached, and Dhruva Maharaj reached, and Prahlad Maharaj, and others? So we have to be careful of the offenses. And being inattentive while chanting is the greatest offense. So how can you become inattentive while chanting? Well, the best way to do it that I know of is to always be in the kirtan. Because during japa, the mind starts to take over. But in kirtan, when you sing, you can't think. This is a law of nature. When you sing, you can't think. So as long as you're singing the Maha Mantra, the mind can't think. So during kirtan, when do I think? When does the mind come in? When the leader is chanting, then I start thinking. And then when it's my turn to chant, I chant. So how to solve that problem? Always chant. Even when the kirtan leader is singing, you can sing quietly so that you're always singing. Then the mind's peaceful. And this way you train the mind so that the mind becomes a Vaishnava. This is what I was saying yesterday. If your mind becomes a Vaishnava, you make rapid advancement. Back to home, back to Godhead, no problem. But if your mind is not a Vaishnava, still maintaining attachments, material attachments, based on Indriya Tripti, sense gratification, how I will enjoy the material energy, then I will make hardly any advancement at a snail's pace. You want to, we could either follow in the footsteps of Dhruva Maharaj and Srila Prabhupada, or follow in the footsteps of a snail and take 1,000,000 lifetimes to go back to Godhead. So let's get serious. So here, this is so wonderful that Sukadeva Goswami is speaking to Maharaj Parikshit, and he's talking about offenses. That we have to be very, very careful, because this is what happens when we commit offenses, and especially to a great Vaishnava like Jada Bharat. Of course, nobody knew that Jada Bharat was a great Vaishnava, because a great Vaishnava is what you are internally. Your heart is filled with devotion for the Lord. But we tend to judge externally. So all those envious people judged Jada Bharat externally. And so they didn't like him. But they couldn't see internally that he was a great devotee. And neither can we see internally who's a great devotee and who's not a great devotee. Therefore, every Shastra and every Acharya, every Guru says you have to become Das, 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 Anudas. The servant of the servant of the servant, and see everyone else as Prabhu. We have to practice to see everyone else as Prabhu. What does Prabhu mean?
Master.
Master. I am the servant, he's the master. That is a humble state of mind. Trinadapi Sunichena, more humble than the grass, seeing everyone as Prabhu. They may not be Prabhu, but when Krishna sees that you're taking that mentality of Das, Das, Anudas and treating him as if he was Prabhu, even though he may not be, Krishna is so pleased. And Krishna, a smile comes to his face because of our humility. When Krishna sees our humility, he is so pleased. And you know what he thinks? He thinks, oh, you're just like me. What are you doing in the material world? Come back home, back to Godhead. Because Krishna is the most humble. Ishvara Parama Krishna, he's the controller of all other controllers. He's the beginning of everything. He's the cause of all causes. But yet this most powerful personality takes the form of a barefoot cowherd boy, herding cows and playing a bamboo flute. How humble is our Lord. So when we're humble, Krishna says, oh, you're just like me. Come and join my Nitya Lila. But if you're puffed up, what does he think? He says what in Bhagavad Gita, Ahankara vimudatma, Ahankara, false ego. When you're in the false ego, when you're puffed up, the Atma becomes like Vimuda. Ahankara vimudatma. the Atma, the spirit soul, becomes like a Vimuda. A Muda means an ass, a donkey, but not an ordinary donkey, the biggest, stupidest donkey of all, Vimuda. So being puffed up or having false ego about oneself is a complete turn-off. Krishna and Radharani, oh my God, this guy's a Muda, Vimuda. But when you're humble, their smile comes to Radha and Krishna's face, to Gauradesh face, and they want to welcome you back home, back to Godhead. So we have to become Das, 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 Das. We have to train ourselves to become Das, 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 Under Das. See everyone else as Prabhu. Treat them as Prabhu. They may not be Prabhu, but that's not the point. The point is not what their position is. The point is what's your position. The point is how's Krishna seeing your behavior. Don't worry about how Krishna's seeing anyone else's behavior. How is he seeing my behavior? That's my consciousness. I have to focus on that. How's Krishna seeing me? So let's be very careful about committing offenses, because our future is very, very bright. We're on the topmost path, going back home, back to Godhead. And the only thing that can block our guaranteed success is these offenses. So thank you very much for allowing me to share something that I learned from Srila Prabhupada. And if you have any comments or questions, I'll try my best to answer. Yes?
I have one question, but I have tried to recollect because it's not so easy to formulate for me this question. But yeah, at the beginning you talk about criticism.
Talk about?
Criticism.
Criticism, yeah.
To criticize devotees is the worst thing what we can do.
Second most worst.
Second worst. But then I had this thought that we could see that Srila Prabhupada, he was often criticizing persons, but even his god brothers, but he was not envious. And nowadays there's also in this movement we have criticism because like some say this philosophy is more watering down and so on. And my question was like how we can realize that if a person criticizes but at the same time is not envious.
Okay, so let me answer your question. First I want to clarify that Prabhupada wasn't criticizing his god brothers. What he was doing, he was teaching his disciples what to do and what not to do. Just like you have in Krishna consciousness what you do and what you don't do. This is called yama niyama. Niyama are the rules that you follow. Yama are the restrictions. So we have the 4 yamas. No meat eating, no illicit excess, no intoxication, no gambling or mental speculation. Then we have the niyamas. You chant your japa, you chant kirtan, you distribute the books, you attend the artis, like that. So Prabhupada is teaching us what to do and what not to do. So he was teaching us what not to do, what his god brothers did. We should not do that. He didn't criticize them. He just pointed out how they behaved and that we should not behave that way. Unfortunately, we still, even though Prabhupada taught us not to behave that way, we still do behave that way. And that is, our behavior is our criticism, not what we teach others, not when we give instruction. That's not criticism. We're teaching what to do, what not to do. You have to teach what not to do also, and you have to give the example so it's clear. But and Prabhupada spoke that to raise up the devotees to a higher level, to stop this criticizing. But in his course of his teaching the devotees like this, Prabhupada felt that indirectly, although not directly, because he never said like that to his godbrothers, he never spoke to them in that way. He was always very respectful. But indirectly, Prabhupada thought maybe I committed some offense by teaching my students like this. So at the end of his life, whenever he met his godbrothers, he said, "Please forgive me if I have committed any offenses knowingly or unknowingly." So then again shows Prabhupada how he's so humble, das, 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 anudas, to all his godbrothers, that he's saying this to them. He's not criticizing them. He's, "Please forgive me if I've said something either unknowingly or knowingly that may have been offensive." So you see how Prabhupada's behavior and his mentality, he wasn't criticizing. Now someone who has a poor fund of knowledge, they'll say, "Oh, Prabhupada criticized." They don't understand. They're just looking externally. Just like you're wearing saffron, so someone will say, "You're a brahmachari because you wear saffron." But maybe you're not true to your saffron vows, to your brahmacharya. Maybe you're, not paka. But externally, you look like you're paka. But internally, you may not be. So we can't judge by external. We have to learn to see the way Krishna sees. And the safest way to do that is das, 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 anudas. Just see everyone, the good qualities, and not to find the fault. Because I'll tell you what happens. If I find the fault in someone else, then Krishna finds the fault in me. If I don't find faults in anybody else, Krishna doesn't find any faults in me. Ye yatamam prapanjate tam sataiva bhajamyaham. As you behave, I reciprocate accordingly. So we have to be very careful. So that's one thing. The second thing is, what happens when I find someone's fault? Karmically, what happens? So let's say some devotee is doing something and he's doing it in such a way that it's negative. Some negative karma is created there. It may be due to ignorance, he doesn't know. It may be too that he's spaced out, he's just not thinking, he's unconscious, Krishna unconscious. Or it may be that he's envious, And but whatever the reason that someone is doing something faultly, as a fault and getting some karma coming back, if I find that fault and I broadcast it to others, then the karma that would have gone to him now comes to me. You understand? When I realize that my finding fault with other people and criticizing them, then I then take their karma, immediately I stopped finding anybody's fault. Then I realized this is the worst thing that can happen to me. I have to become das, 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 anudas, and just see the good. So sometimes people may criticize me. They may say this or that. They come to me and they find fault. How do I behave? I say, "Thank you very much." Because I know he's taking my karma, so I'm thanking him. And then I say, "Any other faults you found in me? Might as well take more of my karma." But a very humble and very respectful way. Always humble, always respectful. But you know the tattva, you know the truth because you've studied the Shastra. And when you act in knowledge, it's different than acting in ignorance. So that's what Prabhupada meant when he said, don't be Krishna unconscious, acting in ignorance. First become conscious, act in knowledge, and then become Krishna conscious. So I hope that I was able to give you some answer that was helpful to you.
Yeah, I have still one more question.
Okay.
My second question is, like you say, we cannot judge by the external things. So when we as devotees want to find our guru, it's for us very difficult because we are just on this mental platform almost, and we just, is he doing that and that, but actually it's not like, like the scale of how much he's devoted to Krishna. So how we can...
Yeah, that's a very good question. He's saying that when you first come to Krishna consciousness, you don't know anything. You're full of material consciousness. So how do you judge who is the real guru? You know, there's different gurus. How do we know? And on what basis can I make such an evaluation and come to a conclusion? So that's his question. Very good question. So this is what you have to know, and this is from Shastra. You may not know who your guru is, but Krishna knows who your guru is. Krishna knows past, present, and future. So you have to pray, my dear Lord Krishna, I don't know who my guru is, but you do. Please lead me to my guru so I don't make a mistake and choose the wrong person. You please guide me and give me that understanding of who is my spiritual master. If we don't do that, we may end up taking initiation from someone and then later on getting much more inspired by somebody else. Oh, I should have taken from him because I didn't ask the Lord to help me. I made the decision based on my ignorance, right? So don't take Krishna out of the equation. Krishna, you know, there's that famous shloka Prabhupada always used to quote, Brahmanda Brahmite Kona Bhagavana Jeev Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Bhakti Lata Bij, that we're wandering through so many lives, so many bodies, lifetime after lifetime. And then we finally, by some causeless mercy, Krishna leads us to a Vaishnava. So by the mercy of Krishna, we come to our spiritual master. And by the mercy of that spiritual master, he brings us back home, back to God, and back to Krishna. So that's the process. Krishna brings you to your spiritual master. You have to ask him. You can't take Krishna out of the equation and just make your own decision without Krishna. That will never work. Or you may be lucky. You know the game of darts? You just may throw it, you have no idea, and you get the bullseye just by a fluke. So you may be lucky, but we shouldn't depend on that. We should depend on Krishna. My dear Lord Krishna, I don't know who my spiritual master is, but you do know. You please guide me. Let me know whom I should take shelter of. Thank you very much. That's what you pray, okay? Any other points for discussion? Yes.
Thank you very much for this wonderful lecture, Prabhu. I want to ask that I witness often my mind criticizing or finding myself in a situation where I'm getting emotional or something, and I witness that I do, and I just have this question how to deal in those moments, how to overcome this because I see it's just a pattern of my mind and my old behavior.
So when you say you get emotional, what do you mean? Emotional about Krishna or emotional about Maya?
I see something in the outside that doesn't please myself, and then I get angry or...
Okay, so something about Maya.
Yeah.
Right, okay. Because we can get emotional about Krishna, you know. We can have so much joy. Tears may come to the eyes. We can have feelings in our heart for Krishna. But when we get these emotions, mostly negative emotions because of Maya, then we should also see it in a way as a witness. In other words, step back and see yourself. Oh, I mean, you know, as Krishna would see you. Oh, I mean, I'm responding in this negative way, but I'm supposed to be a sadhu. I'm wearing the dress of a Vaishnava and the tilak of a Vaishnava. I'm supposed to be a sadhu, and I'm not supposed to have such negative feelings. And I should also understand this, that all the energies come from Krishna. The material energy comes from Krishna, and the spiritual energy comes from Krishna. It's not that the material energy doesn't come from Krishna. It does. Everything comes from Krishna. So it's just called his inferior energy, but it's still his energy. And the spiritual is the superior energy. In Sanskrit, we say the Bahiranga Shakti. It's the external energy, and the spiritual, the Bhakti, is the Antaranga Shakti, the internal. So, but it all comes from Krishna. So Prabhupada gave a very good example like this. He says Krishna, you see Krishna, he has his front, but he also has his back. Behind the back of Krishna is like the material energy. So when you come to a person, you always come to their front. You speak to their face. You don't speak to their back. Their back's still there. Everyone has a front and a back, but it's still part of the one. So both energies are still part of Krishna. So we should understand that material energy, we shouldn't see it in a negative way, but just see it as Krishna's material energy. And it has a purpose. And Krishna has created it. And I should treat it with respect because I'm a Vaishnava and I understand that this is also Krishna's energy. So yesterday when we came here, we were driving in the car, we were driving through the countryside of Germany, and I remarked how the countryside was so beautiful because it's Krishna's energy. I didn't say, oh, this is Maya, oh, terrible material energy. Yeah. No, you have to understand it's Krishna's energy. It's not his superior energy, it's not his topmost energy, but it's still his energy, his Shakti, his creation. Nobody else's creation, his. Now when you come to the cities and you go to the factories and you see the smoke, the black smoke coming out of the chimneys, that's not Krishna's creation, that's man's creation. We should understand what is what. You understand, you see? So when we say Maya, we have to understand what we mean by Maya. To say that the nature is Maya, in what way is nature Maya? It was created by Krishna. We can see it either in a negative way or a positive way. Let's try and see it in a positive way. That Krishna is such a great artist. He's created this beautiful scenery with water and lakes and rivers and trees and flowers. And it's so beautiful. So we can appreciate it's Krishna's energy. But it's not his superior energy. It's not the spiritual energy. But just think, if the material energy is this nice, how nice is the spiritual energy when you go back home, back to Godhead? Oh my God. You can't even imagine how beautiful Goloka Vrindavan will be. So we have to have that vision that we understand Krishna's energy and appreciate Krishna's energy and know what is Krishna's energy and what is man's energy. The difference. Was that helpful?
Yes. So stepping back and witness, but how to break that cycle.
Okay, so the emotions are coming.
Yeah.
How to control the emotions? Well, if you see everything in a positive way, then you have positive emotions. So I just expressed that. How beautiful is Krishna's creation? Wow. It's so beautiful. Because you're seeing that Krishna has created this. So that's great. That's okay. Anything connected to Krishna is spiritual. So if you're having emotions, seeing how beautiful Krishna has created in an artistic way, so artistic, everything beautiful, then your emotions are connected to Krishna. They're focused on the spiritual. There's nothing wrong there. There's nothing wrong. We are emotional beings. We have feelings. Emotion means feelings. And we want to have feelings for Krishna and everything that has to do with Krishna. Krishna's name, Krishna's quality, Krishna's forms, Krishna Leela, Krishna's teachings, Krishna's prasad, Krishna's shastra, Krishna's creation, everything to do with Krishna. We want to have wonderful feelings, positive feelings towards. And we can have negative feeling for man's creation, but it's not good to have negative feelings. We may say that this factory is horrible, you're polluting the environment, and this, that, and that. But why focus on that? It's there. You can't change it. Forget about it. Don't even think about it. Just think on what's positive. Just focus on Krishna. So accentuate the positive and eliminate the negative. Why do I want negativity in my life? Why do I want to see bad things in my life? Life is too short for that. Let me just see the positive. I already know what the negative is because I grew up in that negativity. I already know. Now that I've become a devotee, I can't start thinking about that also. Even now, forget about it. I already know that. Now I got to know this. I got to focus on Krishna. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
His Grace Vayasaki Prabhu.
Yeah.